Welcome to another movie plot and enjoy the memories. It begins with three primary colored aliens traveling through the Milky Way on board their spaceship. The Captain Max sleeps while his companions Zeebo and Wiploc watch some fuzzy female dancer as it's been a long time since they've seen a woman. The thong-wearing furballs disengage their gravity dongles and chase the hologram around the ship, giving us time to leave the madness and return to Earth. In the San Fernando Valley, Valerie Gail lays in bed with her Angora Bambi waiting for her philandering fiancé to return. When he gets in, Valerie's worried about him seeing her in the wedding dress, but Dr. Ted's more concerned about hiding his love bites from another woman. He goes straight to bed claiming to be worn out from work even when Val tells him that she's been fluffing it all night, but I think she means the pillow. Going to sleep unfulfilled yet again, the next morning Val arrives at the Curl Up and Dye salon where she works as a manicurist. The hands-on manager Candy hears about Val's lack of any intimacy and recommends her a makeover mapped out with her ancient version of MS Paint. The movie turns into a musical for the next few minutes as they all dance around the salon singing about bikini waxes or something and looking directly into camera. Valerie's battered about with cosmetics by women who would probably fail an IQ test, and even his contacts lowered into her eyes like this is Face Off. Getting home later looking like a different person, Val's out to seduce her fiancé but instead almost just burns down his house with some essential oils. During his gym session, Ted talks about not being attracted to Valerie anymore and how he heard oysters can help with potency. But his friend says that they don't work and just kept falling off, as I think he was using them incorrectly. Ted gets home, so Valerie hides in the closet to surprise him, but he's brought home another woman as he thinks his fiancée is out of town. Valerie leaps out but apologizes when she tackles Robin, as she could simply be there for business, but Ted freeballing his stethoscope would suggest otherwise. The nurse gets scared away thinking she just stepped into some kinky role play, while an angry Valerie kicks her boyfriend out of his own home. He gets in the car and leaves before Val can change her mind, while the nosy neighbor Mrs. Merkin listens into their argument and another even produces her glicky. No lives are lost except for Mrs. Merkin's eardrums, and Valerie goes inside to begin destroying all of the cheater's belongings. She even poisons his fish before breaking out into the second song of the movie while she trashes all of her own shared possessions. Finishing up with a very elaborate way to destroy a computer, we return to space where the aliens have just discovered broadcasts from planet Earth. They get aroused by the hairless shapely creatures and need to straddle the pilot's seat to get closer and check out the real thing. Spying on the bikini-clad Valerie while she's sunbathing by the pool, a fight breaks out between Zeebo and Wiploc over who gets to be creepier. It causes the spaceship to spiral out of control and plummet toward Earth, waking up Mac from his sleeping chamber prison thingy. They crash right into Valerie's swimming pool, who thinks that it's a giant hairdryer but still ends up diving in to check for any survivors. She unexplainably swims right into the windshield, knocking herself out and needing to be rescued by the only beings who saw her act of stupidity. Mac risks his life going to the surface as they don't even know if they can breathe the air yet, and drags her from the pool and into their spaceship. When Valerie wakes up, she's frightened at first and tries to back away from her fuzzy abductors, but just keeps shuffling around the spaceship interior. They give their names and try to be friendly, but considering they don't speak English they just come off as creepy, but then again they kind of are. Val realizes she wasn't abducted and is still in her swimming pool, so she tries to escape but just ends up flooding the interior. The control panel gets wet and the ship's damaged, so Valerie invites them all inside while she calls someone to drain the pool. The aliens experience everything for the first time while being spied on by Mrs. Merkin, who never causes any actual trouble and just pops up here and there. As they're learning about Earth customs, Wiploc begins brawling with Bambi, but Wes uses what we're going to call his alien love touch on her. The cat falls into a state of euphoric bliss before the trio begin eating various things around the house, including the expensive fish lava lamp and vinyl records. They then prove to be quick learners and almost immediately pick up English as well as anything else they need to know by absorbing American pop culture. We see the pinnacle of that culture when Valerie rushes outside to greet the pool boy Woody, who seems to terrify the cat. Val tries to keep him distracted and claims that the spaceship's only a pool toy, but honestly she doesn't need to do all this as the dude's an oblivious moron. While he gets to work draining the pool, Valerie finds that the aliens can now talk English and even learns some of it from Ted's message on the answering machine. He says that he'll return home tonight, so Valerie freaks out and takes the aliens to her salon where she tries to convince Candy to give them a makeover to look more human. Although initially scared, Candy agrees to help, and all it takes is a shave and tan to have these three furballs looking like dashing bachelors. Valerie's immediately charmed by Mac and agrees to join them for a night on the town, but spends the whole time falling in love with the alien. The other pair, however, have a more interesting night when Z learns all of the dance moves from a patron and challenges him to a dance-off. It's a 5-minute scene that shows the alien imitating everything the human can do, but at least there's no singing this time, so there is that. Unlike the Earthling, Zeebo doesn't get tired and continues twirling away to a smoky victory, getting him flocked by a cheering crowd of spectators. Meanwhile, Wiploc catches the attention of every girl in the club with his incredibly long tongue, but Candy gets first dibs since she shaved him. Ted arrives home to find the place trashed and assumes that Valerie's been kidnapped by somebody who apparently also ate his fish. He calls the police, but she soon shows up with the aliens claiming to have won a contest to spend the weekend with this unknown rock band. Ted demands that they leave his house, but Wiploc reveals it was them who ate all of his expensive fish, and they fight over the last few meals of seafood. 2 police officers answer Ted's call, but when he explains that Wiploc was eating his bluefin dorky, they take the word dork as an insult. He gets arrested for a false report, and while being escorted away, Ted calls off the wedding while also hurling insults at Bambi for some reason. As Valerie's feeling upset about the situation, Mac goes in to console her but gives off the impression that he's flirting with her. Taking his shirt off might also help give off that vibe, but Val says that she doesn't want to give him the impression that Earth girls are easy. She does this by sleeping with him, and that night dreams about being pulled into an old science fiction classic featuring plenty of special guests. Various members of the town appear as aliens, as well as all other manner of wacky things going on, but Val wakes up safe in bed the next morning. She takes a hefty sum of birth control to combat those little hairy swimmers before the boys get to work repairing their spaceship now that the pool's fully drained. It takes all of about a 20-second scene before Mac informs Valerie that it's working enough for them to return to their home planet of Jazala. She's disappointed, so when Val receives a call from Ted apologizing for acting a fool and begging to be taken back, she's much more accepting. Mac's having second thoughts about leaving, but overhears their conversation about needing more romance in the relationship and decides to stay out of it. Woody arrives and the aliens now have him believing that the spaceship's some retro car from Finland, but he would believe anything that you told him. He offers to take them to the beach to relax, so Zeebo and Wiploc obviously agree the moment they hear that it's a common hangout for bikini-clad women. They ditch Mac for no reason and hit up an all-blonde beach where Candy goes into another thought-provoking song about how her hair color meant that she never had to learn how to read. That song's all we get out of this place, and as the trio pull into a gas station on the way back, Zeebo gets his hands on a child's toy gun. He and Wiploc walk into the store holding it in plain sight, so naturally the cashier hands over the entire register assuming that he's being robbed. The pair then need to flee from the scene, but not because police are called, but because some pink floozy needs the boys to back up so she can refuel. Zeebo accidentally hits the gas plowing into her Corvette, so in a panic he reverses through a car wash, which is probably a luxury that this car's hippie's owner has never shown it. They then speed away, stealing Woody's car before finding themselves driving recklessly down a freeway and having a good old time. They end up going off the edge and getting inserted into Randy's donut before needing to be taken to the same hospital where Ted works as their physician. Meanwhile, Mac arrives at the gas station, but the blonde fingers him as the thief, which is apparently good enough for these cops to arrest him. Soon when Valerie arrives, the officers seem disappointed that she hasn't done anything illegal, so she smashes the police lights to get herself thrown in the back with Mac. On the way to jail, she convinces him to use his alien touch on the officers, who fall in love with each other and agree to drop the prisoners off anywhere they want. They go to the hospital after hearing that Zeebo and Wiploc were emitted over the police radio, but Ted's discovered the aliens have 2 heartbeats. He envisions fame and fortune from his amazing discovery, while Val and Mac arrive to rescue the pair but aren't allowed to enter the emergency room. Val uses the fake gun to rob Ted's mistress of her nurse's uniform, so Robin whispers to a nearby patient to press the call button, but he refuses to do so until the show's over, and by the looks of this dude, I'd say he's earned it. Now disguised as a doctor and a nurse, the pair find Ted about to operate on the aliens, which I'm sure is against some kind of laws. Mac uses a completely new power to convince Ted that he's just delusional, and he begins running around the hospital hearing constant banging in his ears. Valerie sneaks the aliens out and hides them in the back seat, but also gives Ted a lift home in the front passenger, and somehow he doesn't notice them at all. She makes up with this peripherally blind man and they plan to elope in Vegas immediately, but first need to return the aliens home. They sneak around back while Ted goes inside and calls his mistress to tell her about the wedding, but says that they can still date when he returns. Valerie goes out back to say goodbye to her new alien friends, but Ted follows her and isn't as dumb as Woody to not realize it's a spaceship. He is, however, even dumber and tries to battle it with a pool scooper, so Mac hits him and Valerie with a love touch at range. They begin to depart while the couple are distracted, but the effect didn't work on Val, who's now in love with Mac and asks him to take her with him. She climbs up onto the ship when Candy arrives and throws Val a going away beer for her trip, but I think it just kills Woody. The aliens and their easy Earth girl leave the planet via a space donut, while Bambi also gets her happy ending and with a doctor nonetheless. And the movie ends.